So as we start today, I would like to give my best wishes out to everybody who was in Milwaukee over the weekend. I know a lot of our friends with CHGO, Nicholas, Rags, all those guys had made the trip up to Milwaukee for a Cubs Brewers game. For everybody, I'm sure you know by now, the escalator incident. It's very scary. Like it's an interesting. Innocently enough, I had just been texting Braggs during the day because I saw the score and hey, you guys won today. And he's like, oh, did you see what happened? And then I went through and was checking it out. So I'm glad to hear that everybody is doing well. As a matter of fact, I talked to Braggs today. I don't want to talk about too much about his situation, but he said he's doing well. So obviously those guys will keep you up. A very scary situation, man. I always think about that as going to games. There's big ramps because I go to Angel games more than anything, like big ramps. Like I'm good walking, but glad to hear that everybody's safe, that everybody was able to escape like real serious injury. Just a scary situation all around, but want to wish those guys well as we get ready to talk about the Bears Mount Rushmore. Of course, this being the 4th of July holiday. No better time than to discuss that than right now. So, Sammy, let's just go ahead and start the show.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast with Adam Ray.
It's Hester trying to work it back to the middle. Gets past the first wave, and here he goes. It's Hester inside the 30. Hester's going to take it all the way for a touchdown. And no flag, 92 yards.
The sickest Chicago Bears and fantasy football podcast. Sports entertainment like no other. It's gonna be sick.
It's Wednesday night. You know what that means? It is time for Take It to the Rank. Big Wednesday on tap. By the way, I should point out our friend Britt Baker made a return to AEW over the weekend. She will be on Dynamite this evening. I bring this up because obviously I'm a wrestling fan, but July 13th, in Pittsburgh, or actually Washington, Pennsylvania, I will be part of the Cam Hayward Celebrity Softball Tournament. Game starts at 7 o'clock. All the lower bowl tickets are sold out for that tournament. But if you want to go out there and get an opportunity to see me, we had a lot of Patrick was out there, not Patrick Claybon, but Patrick Pusey was out there last year, took some photos. I did a jersey swap last year that was pretty cool. That was exciting. I'd never done anything like that before. And if you forgive me, I'm trying to retweet this to everybody so we can get people on board. But I will be out there July 13th, the Cam Hayward Celebrity Softball Classic. I think I'll be on Britt's team this time. So I'm looking forward to that. And of course, this being the 4th of July holiday, we're going to be talking about the Mount Rushmore of the Chicago Bears. And of course, we were trying to find a guest. I have Canadian producers. Sammy and Anello are Canadian. They're like, why can't we find anybody? I'm like, it's the 4th of July holiday. They're like, what's that? And you're like, American Indian, whatever. But in any event, we'll talk about that. We got a lot of, I got some thoughts on that, and we'll talk about that in a moment because what I wanted to dive in on right off the top here is something a little bit more serious. So Pro Football Focus has been putting out their rankings for position groups. And you've seen it, and it's dominated by the 49ers and the Jets, which are two of the most talented rosters in the NFL. And I saw some people kicking this around on Twitter or whatnot, and they're like, hey, and I'm like, I remember looking at this, and I'm like, well, no, duh. The Jets are going to be ranked above us. That doesn't surprise me, as they should be. And so I didn't think anything of it. And then I'm like, oh, I wonder where they had us. I don't know why I looked. I am now kicking myself for looking. The Bears are the 19th ranked secondary, according to Pro Football Focus. 19, not even the top half of the NFL. The Chicago Bears, a team that has poured more resources into the secondary, more than just about anybody else, is 19th. For comparison, the Detroit Lions are 11th. They're 11th. I don't get it. I couldn't believe as I was scrolling down, and I'm like, we're top 5. We're not top 5. We're top 10. We should at least be top 6. Not even top 16. Not even the top half. And to their credit, they did point out, like, well, they gotta, if they all play well, they could be very good. I'm like, well, then why don't you just, that's what we're ranking this on, right? Like, this shouldn't be a thing where I don't get where it was. And if we had enough time, and as a matter of fact, I'll have to we got to find somebody from Pro Football Focus, because I'm really interested to see what the issue is with this team. Jalen Johnson is one of the top cornerbacks in the NFL. And I think that's not even something that we would argue about. Now, when you think about the best guys, like Sauce Gardner, probably number one. As a matter of fact, Sauce Gardner, his PFF ranking is above 90. It's probably the highest. I think it's the highest since 2020. And Sauce Gardner plays very well. But the Bears, like, Jalen Johnson's one of the best corners in the game. Tyreek Stevenson might have been the best rookie cornerback last year. And of course, a lot of the Steelers fans are going to be like, whoever that guy was, whoever they drafted with the first pick in the second round, somebody's son. Why can't I think of his name? I don't care. I know that he was it Deion Sanders Jr.? No, it wasn't. It was Joey Porter Jr. Somebody? I don't know. It was Joey Porter Jr. I feel like if Tyreek Stevenson was wearing a Steelers uniform, people would be like, oh, he was the best. He was the best by far. Like, no. Like the Steelers didn't have a secondary. Like, the Steelers don't have a secondary. Now, they've gone out of their way to kind of change that a little bit. But teams were not targeting Joey Porter Jr. the way that teams were targeting Tyreek Stevenson. When you have Jalen Johnson and you have Kyler Gordon manning the slot, and that's a big change that's happened in the NFL over the last number of years, which I don't think the Bears get enough credit for, is that they have one of the best slot cornerbacks in the NFL. They had a high second-round draft pick that was basically a first-rounder. But they put him in the slot because so many great receivers in the NFL play the slot nowadays. Like, we've noticed the change in the league. Like, slot receivers have become like the most counted on position. You think about guys like Amon-Ra St. Brown, Cooper Kupp, players like that. Even, the slot corner needs to play them. It's not like the third best corner is the slot corner. That's not the way that works anymore. The slot corner might actually have to be your best corner in some respects. So the Bears had Jalen Johnson and Kyler Gordon, which means that any offensive coordinator who knows what they're doing is going to look at the Bears defense and be like, we're not throwing it Jalen. We're not going to force it into the slot. We're going to go after Tyreek Stevenson. And so for the first couple of weeks, there were times where it was rough. He's a rookie. There were times it was rough. Some other guys, like Joey Porter Jr., did not have to deal with that because the Steelers have nobody. And they're like, well, I guess we just won't throw at Joey Porter Jr. that much. We'll go after these no-name guys and pick them apart, which teams did. And I don't know. And it's weird. So I truly believe that when we get to the end of time, when we get 5 years out, we're going to be looking at Tyreek Stevenson as the best cornerback in that draft. I got to look at that draft again. He's going to be better than Joey Porter Jr. He's just better. I'm just amazed I'm just dumbfounded that the Bears are 19th. Like, what are we basing it on? What is the weak part of this defense? And they're like, well, Jaquan Brisker played great. I have no issue with Jaquan Brisker. I thought he played really well last year. And even then, if you look at and Kevin Byard comes in, and he's a great addition. He's not being counted upon to be the savior of this team. And then we drafted Smith. Like, we have a lot of depth at the cornerback position. Like, we added guys that when Jalen Johnson was out, the defense wasn't really an issue. If you think back to week 18, now the Bears lost. They allowed 17 points to future Hall of Famer Jordan Love. Like, that's the thing. Like, everybody talks about oh, Jordan Love, such a great season, whatever. The Bears handled him. And I know he had a lot of yards. And I think he got like a BS touchdown or whatever. But it wasn't like Jordan Love was ripping up the Bears that day. They scored 17 points. Jordan Love was out there making his big, game crippling turnovers, as he always does. The Bears just weren't able to capitalize on it. But the Bears were pretty much holding them in check, holding them to 17 points, and without Jalen Johnson. And yet somehow this is the 19th best secondary in the NFL. I just don't get it. I don't know. And I don't want to be, conspiratorial. I think that now it feels like now that we've got Caleb Williams and the media doesn't have a way of exploiting the Justin Fields versus Caleb Williams crowd anymore. Like that shop is closed, like there's a few holdouts. You go to some remote parts of Illinois, you're driving through Sterling, Illinois, you might find somebody being like, we should have kept it, whatever. The majority of Bears fans have moved on. So now they got to figure out a way to incite us further. Like, how do we get to them? Like, what are the Bears fans most prideful of besides Caleb Williams now? And they know they can't go after the receiving core because that would be preposterous. Like, the Bears have done such a great job building their receiving room that you can't even really try to take it apart. Like, even that hater kid on TikTok who was spending all last year hating on the Bears, that little Arizona guy, he's now picking the Bears to go to the Super Bowl or something. Is it past the 10-minute mark? Can I curse real quick? Sammy, cover your ears because I'm a little heated right now because of this ranking. But I feel like they're trying to find our vulnerability, and they know that they can't rip on our receivers. Our linebackers are damn good. I mean, our defensive line, like if you wanted to take a shot at anything, like go after our defensive line. That's fair. We need an extra pass rusher. That all makes sense. Like I can go along with that, but that's probably too easy. Like, let's go after the secondary. Because the secondary, I guess you have some sort of like, hey, none of it makes sense. We're not the 19th best secondary. That is just preposterous. To the point of like, I'm not reading this. I'm not paying attention to this. And I'm not even mad at the Detroit thing. Because I think Detroit did do a nice job of addressing a lot of their needs. But then they're counting on a player who is Darian Arnold, who has never played a snap in the NFL. That guy makes them better than – no, it's just garbage. Who is ranking this stuff? What are you talking about? We have tangible evidence that all the guys in the Bears secondary are good at football. And you hope this guy coming in to the league is good and is going to make Detroit better. Unbelievable. I don't care. I'm not even mad that the Lions are 11. We should be 10. We're a top 10 secondary, at least. Bare minimum, pun intended. At least a dumb ranking. And Sammy, if we have any questions or anything like that, you can bring it up. Anything like that. But I will no, I just can't believe it. It was even for the internet, that was pretty shocking. But in any event, in the summer of 2006, I believe that all major sports ranked the Bears. That makes sense, Don, sorry. I don't have my glasses on. That's about right. That feels right, too. Right? I would agree with that. That Bears team. I remember those funky Bears teams of the 2000s, the Lovie Smith era and all that stuff. I remember how much I loved Mike Brown. Like, I thought Mike Brown was such a heady player, such a guy who was always at the right place at the right time. I remember, like, there was a couple of games. Was it Cleveland that he had? Was it the 2 picks? Cleveland that he closed out. It's just, and it's not an accident. I think sometimes when you see people making spectacular plays like that, like, hey, that guy's fortunate to do whatever, and you're like, no, that wasn't an accident. He went out there. He's doing it. He does it because he's a good player. not because anything like that. But in any event, Pro Football Focus has the Bears as the 19th best secondary. That is no, I'm fine. I have glasses here. I just wasn't wearing them. It's all good. Thank you. But in any event, there is that. Let's talk about Mount Rushmore here on the 4th of July holiday weekend, Sammy. It is the American Independence Day. And in America, there is a mountain with the face carvings of 4 American presidents who were the foundation of this country. And so a lot of people have used the Mount Rushmore thing as a way like, hey, who's your Mount Rushmore of, rappers or whatever. I think Draft Dr. Phil's doing that. By the way, Draft Dr. Phil, I don't know if you guys caught me on the Tape Never Lies network. You talk about preposterous rankings. This is the thing, and I don't mean to take shots at Draft Dr. Phil when he's not here to defend himself, but I gave him an opportunity to come on today. The Bears being 19th is as bad as him not having Tupac in his top 20 rappers of all time, which is just insanity. Like top 20, he doesn't crack the top 20. Doesn't even crack the top 20. Tupac. And I'm like, let me guess, Biggie Smalls is up there. He's like, oh, Biggie's great. I'm like, no. Let me tell you something about Tupac and Biggie Smalls. Now, East Coast, West Coast. The West Coast lost Tupac Shakur. And then they responded by taking out Biggie Smalls, which to me would be like if England killed Bob Dylan and we responded by taking out one of the dudes from Chumbawamba. Like, what? It's not even, what are we doing? So that is ridiculous. In any event, I'm sidetracked because I'm upset at Pro Football Focus. I should call. Should I call Chris Collinsworth right now? I should call. Nah, it's the holiday. I'm gonna find out. I'm gonna find this out at some point. But let's talk about the Mount Rushmore of Chicago Bears. Now I know of people. Again, NFL Network put this out. The NFL Network put out a Mount Rushmore of the Bears, and I still have not found out who did this. There are so many people from Chicago who work for the NFL Network, like real people, like real Chicago people, not like me, who was born there and grew up somewhere else. Like literal, like went to high school and college in the Chicagoland area. Those type of people that you could have asked, like a simple ask. We tweeted this out today and we asked everybody, what is your Mount Rushmore of Chicago Bears players? And Sammy, if people just want to put in who you think should be on the Mount Rushmore of Chicago Bears, and Sammy, you can just roll those through. I don't care. It's not going to distract me or anything because I think it's pretty obvious. This is like a team with a rich history of the Chicago Bears. There's actually kind of a consensus of who, like Buffalo Bob. Here we go. Hallis, Dicka, Peyton, Buckus. There it is. Okay, perfect. I'm glad. Yeah, exactly. That is what I want to say. Buckus, Peyton, Singletary, Sid Luckman. Okay, that's what they put on the NFL Network. I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that. Sid Luckman, I will tell you this. Sid Luckman seems like a slap in the face. I think it's a way to kind of insult Bears fans about like, you guys haven't had a quarterback forever, and that they put that up. That is what they're trying to do. And I think that's what the NFL Network was trying to do. It was somebody. We also have some Wisconsin people, and maybe it was Chad Ryder who put this together. Walter Buckus, Singletary, Urlacher, Sayers. Okay, let's do this. I like that, James. Okay, yeah, again, there's no wrong answers. Even the Sid Luckman stuff is not a wrong answer. You put up 5 guys? Yeah, 5. Why not? Let's put in it's our own Mount Rushmore. Mount Rushmore did 4. Chicago's Mount Rushmore could have more if we wanted. There shouldn't be a limit. We should, and I think a team like the Bears has it. But the number one thing is that Walter Payton, Walter Payton, nobody disputes this. Hallis, Dicka, Buckus, Payton. Yes. Hallis, Dicka, Buckus, Payton. Michael Moulton Jr. Yes. Agree. Walter Payton is undeniable. This is unanimous. We don't sit here and argue about this. That moves on. Dick Buckus. There is a great lineage of linebackers A linebacker needs to be on the Chicago Bears Mount Rushmore. That's an obvious thing. There is no organization in the history of football that has had a better string of linebackers than the Chicago Bears. When you think of all the great linebackers who have played for the Bears, and we'll start Dick Butkus, Mike Singletary, Brian Urlacher. We'll start with the Hall of Famers. Brian Urlacher, Bill George. I'm sure I'm missing somebody. When you look at that and you're like, okay, that's pretty good. Like you got to figure out, I'm sorry, what was that last one? Hallis Luckman. If you're trying to sneak in Luckman, got to have Papa Bear, Sweetness, Sid. Okay. There's a lot. Okay. There's a lot of sentiment for Sid Luckman. Okay. So when you look at the linebacker, but we need to add one. We need to have, Luckman. Okay, Flex Diggs. I got you. All right. I'm not telling you you're wrong. Like it's an objective thing. There's no wrong answers except for a Lions fan trying to put on Jay Cutler. Like that's not cool. Like let's not insult our intelligence here. So when you look at the guys who are out there, so you have the Hall of Famers. Think of the guys who didn't make the Hall of Fame. We talk about like Otis Wilson, Wilbur Marshall, Lance Briggs. You look at some organizations around the NFL, Lance Briggs would be the best linebacker in your team's history. And for the Bears, we're like, he doesn't make our top 5. He should. I mean, God, that's a good one. I should have thought about that. Does he make the top 5? Singletary, Butkus, maybe. I think it's close. I love him. Red Grange. Yeah, Red Grange is another one too. Yeah, it's a good one. Okay, good one. So I think that we're all going to consider Walter Payton number 1. Dick Butkus has got to be on there. I think of all the linebackers that we just mentioned, Dick Butkus is near unanimous. Have to believe that that's what everybody thinks. Those two guys are automatic. Easy way to start. It's kind of like Washington and Lincoln, and the other two are like, okay, like where are we going from here? Butkus, Walter Payton, nobody disputes that. I think as all the lists have been flowing through, I think everybody has had at least, Walter's on every one of them. Butkus is on seemingly every one of them. If I've missed one or two that didn't have it, I would be shocked. But here's my thing. Bruja 7. Hester. Yeah, you know what? Hester's in there too. Well, this is where it gets interesting. Now, what do we do about George Halas? George Halas, we have the GSH on everything. I actually love wearing Bears gear with beanies and stuff. Like you've seen me do this with hats and beanies, especially the beanies. I always turn the beanie so it has the GSH logo because I always feel like the real ones will know what is going on. Like this is a Bears hat. I'm respecting the owner. He was a player. The number 7 is retired for George Halas. So I get that, but his initials are on the jersey. His initials are everywhere. Maybe we can unretire, whatever. Does he belong in the Mount Rushmore? For me, he does. It's similar to if you were doing a Mount Rushmore of the Raiders. How would you not have Al Davis on there? You know what I'm saying? Like, I did a piece for NFL.com years ago where we had to kind of work through this. Like, is it players only? Is it it's difficult to disassociate the Bears from George Halas. The family still owns the team. Similar to the Raiders. Al Davis, the family still owns the team. There are only 2 organizations in the NFL, and Cowboys included, where the owner is such a huge part of it's such a huge part of the team, and that's what it is. Hold on, let me see. Sammy's writing me. If you want, I can share my screen and show all the responses on Twitter. Let's do that. So I think George Halas needs to be in, and I think that it's almost indisputable that George Halas has to be in there. Even again, he wore the number 7. I feel like you got to have him. There's outside of the Raiders. And the only reason George Halas probably doesn't have the run of Al Davis is because Al Davis was from the 60s through the 2000s, or the 90s at least. 2000s, yeah. He was there in 2003. He fired John Gruden. Sammy, yeah, let's see. Because I want to go now with the fourth one. I think the fourth one is the biggest, because I'm going to just say Hallis is it. So if you want to share your screen of the Twitter responses. Okay, there's Jay Cutler, of course. And then we have Peyton, Hallis, Buckus, Ditka. So we got that right there. We got Smokin' Jay. Ooh, look at this one. Peanut Tillman. Oh, my God. That's fun. Peanut Tillman. He should be a Hall of Famer. Buckus, Sayers. Gale Sayers. You know what? There are men of a certain age who grew up watching Brian's song who will go with Gale Sayers. So it's hard to keep him off. But I feel like if we do one per position, it really is kind of a way to go. And you can see some of the responses there. There's interest, like the Bears, God, for as much as like historically, like for a team that's been around forever. And I see some of the names coming through. Hester is an interesting one because he's recently out of the Hall of Fame. We don't have like Dan Hampton or Richard Dent or anybody like that. Let's see. Papa Bear, Sid, Ditka, Walter, Sid Luckman. You didn't see Sid Luckman play football, though. That's a part of it. Yeah, look at that. George Hallis. See, Hallis. I think most people are agreeing with George Hallis. I could see that one. That one's too much for me to read, but yeah, there's Sayers is getting a lot of run. It's that fourth person. Hester's getting a lot of run. Yep. Grange. Red Grange is another one, too. I only remember him from Married with Children. No, it's a deep album cut. Jim McMahon. Somebody put McMahon on there. Jay, listen, I would love to. I wish McMahon was one of the ones. I wish he had a real opportunity to throw the football. And yeah, the first two automatic, yeah, it's Dick Buckus, Walter Payton. And then we go Gale Sayers, Mike Singletary, Richard Dent, Brian Urlacher, Devin Hester. Singletary to me, who is on the NFL Network list, who I love, I don't think Singletary makes it. I thought that was kind of a Ditka, Gale Sayers, Bronco Nagurski. Like this one, Walter Payton, Dick Buckus, Gale Sayers, and Bronco Nagurski. Like there's nothing wrong with that. And if you look at like compared straight up to the real Mount Rushmore, like that makes a lot of sense too. Hallis, Butkus, Ditka, Payton. All right. There we go. Walter. Yeah, a lot of great responses. All right, you can take that down too. That is there's a lot of great responses. So for me, and again, there are no right or wrong answers on this one. My fourth person, which I think I've already tipped my hand, is going to be Mike Ditka. Mike Ditka for a variety of reasons. Number one, player. Obviously was a dominant player for the Chicago Bears. He still holds the record for most receiving yards as a rookie for a tight end. Think about this. The NFL has evolved. We have 17 games now. He was out there playing 14 games, maybe 12. I should go back and check. But regardless, a 14-game season, goes out there, dominates, sets the record, and it still stands today. How is that possible? Now, somebody is eventually going to break it. Maybe Brock Bowers breaks it this year. Who knows? But the fact that it has stayed this long, so he has the player. He has the coach. I mean, he is the only coach in Bears history to lead the team to a Super Bowl title. Now, some of you might argue that he's squandered a lot of talent. I will not be that person for this discussion. And he was so iconic, like he transcends football fans. Like people who don't watch football know who Mike Ditka is and know that he's associated with the Chicago Bears. If you only watched the movie Kicking and Screaming, if you watched Saturday Night Live during the 80s or 90s, whenever it was, 80s, right? The 80s, you knew Mike Ditka. He was a ESPN personality for a long time too. Always picked the Bears. It's undeniable. Like I almost think that Ditka's almost into the undeniable list. I love everybody's input on Sid Luckman and Gale Sayers and Singletary and all those, Urlacher, all those guys. And a lot of it has to do with your age. But for me, and this will be my own personal list, it's Walter Payton, George Halas, Dick Butkus, Mike Ditka. That's my four on my Mount Rushmore. Thanks to everybody who participated in this little. Listen, we got a couple of weeks before we get ready to go to training camp and the Hall of Fame game and everything like that. So it was fun. It's a fun discussion. So please continue to. If you got any other ideas, any other thoughts, go ahead and leave them here. I want to thank everybody for being here. A couple of things to look for in the future. We're working on some big announcements in the next couple of weeks. Be very excited about that. There is some big things happening behind the scenes here with the Sick Podcast that we can't wait to tell you about in hopefully the near future. Do want to let you know that I was in communication with Stacey Dales over the last couple of days. We couldn't quite make it work out this week, but when we get closer to the NFL season, Stacey Dales is going to join us to talk about the state of the Bears. That'll be a fun show. We'll get that going. And so, as we come back from the 4th of July holiday, that's right, Sammy, it's a holiday here in America. As we come back from the 4th of July, then the interest and the enthusiasm for the Bears is going to start picking up a lot, especially, training camp is right around the corner. So make sure that you are locked in. You are subscribed here to the Sick Podcast. Did want to stop by. I know we weren't here last week, so I wanted to stop by before the 4th of July. Wish you all a great holiday weekend. We look forward to seeing you again next week. We will be back with an all-new Take It to the Rank. Thanks to everybody who was here. Thanks to everybody who participated. Thanks to Sammy and Anello. It was a great time. Be safe. Enjoy yourselves. And we'll see you next week. And Sammy, go ahead and play us out.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast with Adam Rank on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.